Prologue. Sarah Lark reflects on her impending arranged marriage to a werewolf alpha, which is a result of a long-standing political alliance between vampires and weres. The marriage comes after centuries of violent conflict, culminating in a delicate peace symbolized by their union. However, Sarah has never met her groom, and the wedding is marked by tension, distrust, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Her brother Owen expresses concern, warning her of the dangers she faces. Despite her apprehensions, Sarah proceeds with the ceremony, where she encounters a groom whose intense and predatory demeanor signals the violence she might soon face. The ceremony is chaotic, with both Vampyre and Were factions ready to erupt into violence. After a tense and charged moment, Sarah and her groom are married, but it's clear that this union is fraught with danger and complex emotions. In Chapter 1, Misery Lark is summoned by Vanya, her father's right hand, to the vampire stronghold, the Nest. She learns that her father wants her to marry the new alpha of the Weres, Lowe Moreland, to solidify an alliance between the Vampyres and Weres, which would prevent extinction for the vampires. Misery is furious, recalling her past as the vampire collateral, a role that kept her hostage for 10 years. She resents her father's cold pragmatism and his treatment of her as a tool for peace. Misery resists, mocking the absurdity of the marriage arrangement, but her father reveals that the new alpha, Lowe, is different and may bring peace. The chapter ends with Misery reluctantly accepting the marriage proposition after her father names Lowe as the groom, signaling that her life is about to change drastically. In Chapter 2, Misery Lark navigates the awkwardness of her wedding reception, reflecting on her life and strained relationships with both vampires and humans. She converses with Governor Davenport, explaining her unusual name, which was given by the Vampire Council, not her parents. Misery reveals her disconnection from her vampire heritage, having lived among humans for years. At the reception, tensions between vampires and weres escalate, leading to a brief confrontation involving a were child. Misery's husband, Lowe Moreland, steps in to defuse the situation, surprising her with his calm leadership. The evening grows more uncomfortable as Lowe and Misery awkwardly exchange barbed words about their marriage. Just as the tension peaks, a human waiter attempts to attack Misery, but Lowe prevents the assassination attempt, saving her life. Lowe orders a truce for the year, suggesting they avoid each other, leaving Misery to contemplate the unexpected turn of events on her wedding night. In Chapter 3, Misery Lark struggles to wake up in the middle of the day, plagued by exhaustion and sunlight-induced lethargy. She is confronted by a young were-child, Anna, who asks about vampire myths and shares that her room used to belong to Lowe Moreland, Misery's husband. After a brief interaction with Anna and her protective mother Juno, Misery feels a growing sense of guilt for displacing the child. Juno warns her to stay away from the pack and not to ask questions, but Misery brushes it off. Her thoughts then turn to her missing best friend Serena, whose sudden disappearance has left Misery desperate for answers. Despite her attempts to gather clues, including searching Serena's apartment and digital footprint, Misery finds nothing but empty leads. However, a breakthrough occurs when she finds a page from Serena's planner with a coded message, which Misery quickly decodes, revealing 3 cryptic words. In Chapter 4, Misery Lark arrives at Lowe Moreland's home, a serene and beautiful house in Were territory. As she adjusts to her new surroundings, she learns about the complexities of Were culture, including their shifting abilities and pack hierarchy. Alex, a younger Were, shows Misery around, nervously guiding her through the house, while Misery picks up information about Lowe's power as an alpha. Alex mentions Lowe's history, including his strength and the fact that he killed his predecessor, Roscoe, through a challenge. Misery, curious about Lowe's past, digs into his background and uncovers a few unsettling facts, including a mysterious communication that ties him to Serena's disappearance. While wandering the house, she encounters Max, a young Were, who expresses deep animosity toward her for being a vampire. The situation escalates quickly, but Misery defends herself before being rescued by Lowe, who is revealed to have been watching from a distance. In Chapter 5, Misery confronts Lowe Moreland after an altercation with Max, a young Were, who accuses her of attempting to feed on him. Lowe intervenes, physically restraining Misery and taking her to his office, where tensions rise between them. Misery defends herself, explaining that Max provoked her and lied about the situation, but Lowe remains skeptical. As Juno Aware sides with Lowe, Misery is pushed further into a corner with Lowe asserting his authority over her. In the midst of their confrontation, Lowe expresses his frustration, and Misery continues to challenge him with biting remarks. The dynamic between them becomes more charged as Lowe hints at his control over her, asserting his protection and authority in Were territory. Misery's thoughts turn to the cat she's caring for, leading to an awkward exchange with Lowe, who reluctantly agrees to allow the cat to roam the house. In Chapter 6, Misery reflects on her captivity in Were territory and her restricted freedom. She's being closely monitored, unable to even go to the bathroom without an escort. Her thoughts are plagued with regret over her previous actions and the confinement she feels. Despite this, she spends time adjusting to her surroundings, making small efforts to entertain herself, including attempting to smuggle in tech. She receives a video call from her brother Owen, where they discuss her situation and the risks she faces living among the Weres. Meanwhile, Anna, a young Were girl, sneaks into Misery's room and the two bond over playful conversation. Anna reveals that Lowe, Misery's husband, doesn't sleep, hinting at his underlying health issues, but Misery is distracted by more pressing matters. Anna mentions Lowe is dealing with the Loyals and causes Misery to become suspicious, setting the stage for further investigation. In Chapter 7, Misery continues to adapt to life among the Weres, feeling trapped and under constant surveillance. She sneaks into Lowe's room hoping to find something that will help her uncover information about Serena, but instead stumbles upon a sketchbook filled with Lowe's architectural drawings, including an unsettling portrait of Misery's face. She's disturbed by the emotional intensity behind the drawing, but leaves it untouched. The next day, she notices a gathering at the lakefront and observes Lowe, who appears well liked by the pack, especially when he plays with the children. Misery becomes uneasy when she sees Max talking to Anna and pulling her toward the woods. Concerned, she follows them and confronts Max, demanding to know what he's doing with a young child in the forest. The situation escalates when Weres appear, surrounding them as Anna screams. In Chapter 8, Misery reflects on her situation in Were territory, feeling restricted by constant surveillance and unable to explore freely. After intervening in Max's attempt to kidnap Anna, she's forced to watch as Lowe and others confront Max. Lowe shows a rare display of compassion for Max, promising to protect him but also questioning his loyalty to the pack. When Misery offers to help by using her vampire abilities to extract information from Max's mind, she performs a thrall, temporarily hypnotizing him to reveal that he was sent by the Loyals to use Anna as leverage against Lowe. This information shifts the group's focus to the Loyals, a faction causing disruption in the Were pack. Later, while snooping around Lowe's office for clues on Serena, Misery encounters Lowe's wolf, and the chapter ends with rising tension as she realizes the full danger of her actions. In Chapter 9, Misery is caught snooping around Lowe's office, searching for clues about Serena. When Lowe confronts her, tensions rise as he questions her actions, and she reveals that she was searching for any leads on Serena's disappearance, specifically Lowe's name, which appeared in Serena's planner on the day she vanished. Misery claims that Serena was her best friend, and the only lead she has is the connection to Lowe. Lowe seems confused but remains composed, acknowledging the gamble of their situation but giving no indication of involvement in Serena's disappearance. The conversation is interrupted by Anna, whose cheerful presence lightens the mood. Misery is shocked when Lowe reveals Anna's full name, Liliana Esther Moreland, connecting her directly to Lowe and raising more questions about his potential involvement in Serena's case. Lowe insists they need to talk, signaling a deeper conversation ahead. In Chapter 10, Lowe and the Misery have a candid conversation in the kitchen, where Lowe expresses curiosity about the Misery's reasons for helping find Anna, who is linked to his past. They discuss Serena's disappearance and her connections to Anna, especially in relation to were-human and vampire relations. Lowe reveals more about Anna's mysterious origins, including her unique genetics as a half-human, half-were child, and the risks she faces from the Loyals, a faction within the Were community. Tensions rise as the Misery insists on maintaining control of the investigation, while Lowe hints at deeper motives, including his complex feelings toward his leadership role and his relationship with Anna's biological father. The chapter also explores the dynamics between Lowe and the Misery, revealing mutual distrust, yet also a growing alliance. As the chapter concludes, Misery is left with more questions, but a sense of urgency to uncover the truth. In Chapter 11, Misery and Alex continue working together to investigate Serena's disappearance. While Alex remains terrified of Misery, the two go through Serena's communications, uncovering leads, including a suspicious link to a Were-owned property. Meanwhile, Lowe is dealing with pack business and occasionally checks in. Misery reflects on the burden Lowe has carried as Alpha and his complicated relationship with Anna. Juno visits Misery, apologizing for her past harshness and explaining the difficult history between Lowe and Roscoe, revealing how Lowe was forced to leave his home at a young age. Misery begins to understand Lowe's sacrifices and his internal conflict. Later, Anna, struggling with her identity, seeks comfort in Misery's company. Lowe returns to find his sister safe, but tensions rise as he discusses pack alliances and hints at the potential significance of Anna's heritage. In Chapter 12, Lowe struggles with learning to code, much to Alex's exasperation. Despite his tech incompetence, Lowe remains determined to figure it out, and Alex offers guidance. After a few awkward moments, Mick informs them that Anna has requested everyone's presence for dinner, and Lowe's smirk shows his amusement. At the dinner table, Anna eagerly bonds with the narrator, asking about birthdays and plans for a party, while Lowe's attention shifts between the conversation and his role as Alpha. The evening turns tense when Lowe reveals he plans to meet with Emery, the former mate of the previous Alpha, to gather evidence against her despite potential danger. Mick expresses concern about the risk, but Lowe insists on proceeding. As the night unfolds, the group shares lighthearted conversation, but Mick remains uneasy about Lowe's decision, while Anna's innocence brings some warmth to the otherwise tense gathering. In Chapter 13, Misery and Lowe share a quiet, vulnerable moment on the roof. Lowe struggles with a coding task, and Misery teases him, offering to help with the tech part. Lowe refuses, expressing concern for her safety. They engage in a candid conversation about their pasts, Lowe's childhood, his struggles with parenthood, and his relationship with Anna. Misery opens up about her strained relationship with Serena, revealing that she's struggled to connect emotionally due to her upbringing as a vampire. Lowe shares his experiences with his mate, describing the deep bond between Weres, which Misery finds hard to comprehend. She then offers to join him in his dangerous mission to find those threatening Anna, explaining that she now cares about something deeply despite her emotional barriers. Lowe agrees to take her with him, but only if she's marked, a mysterious condition that raises further questions. In Chapter 14, Misery and Lowe embark on a journey in a Cessna to meet Emery, with tensions running high among their companions. Lowe is determined to mark Misery as his own in the traditional Were way to ensure her safety. Despite his initial reluctance, Lowe performs a ritualistic scenting on her, marking her with his scent. Their interaction grows increasingly intimate, and Misery experiences a mix of emotions, desire, confusion, and a powerful connection to Lowe. However, as the moment intensifies, they are interrupted by the arrival of Emery's group, which leaves them both flustered. Lowe confirms that Misery now smells like him, marking their bond. The chapter explores the deepening connection between the two, with Misery coming to terms with the physical and emotional complexities of their relationship. In Chapter 15, Misery and Lowe arrive at Emery's territory. Misery is surprised by how friendly and composed Emery is, contrasting with the violent reputation she expected. Despite their tense history, Emery welcomes them, but Misery is keenly aware of her position as Lowe's vampire bride and the tension between their species. During dinner, Lowe navigates complicated pack politics while Misery struggles to follow the conversation. In their shared room, Misery goes through Lowe's phone to ensure it's not being tracked, which Lowe finds amusing. Misery feeds on blood, a process that causes physical changes in her appearance. Later, Lowe addresses the intimacy of scenting, and admits that marking someone like Misery is typically reserved for mates. The conversation shifts to Lowe's unreciprocated feelings for his mate, Gabrielle, which he doesn't plan to reveal to her. The chapter ends with a quiet, introspective moment between them. In Chapter 16, Lowe and Misery settle into Emery's territory. Lowe goes off for Were business, leaving Misery alone. She finds a note from him and spends the day reflecting and taking a bath. Lowe returns, and they have an awkward yet playful conversation about his sweaty appearance. Misery then requests to see him shift into wolf form, but Lowe refuses, explaining that shifting isn't something to be casually displayed. They talk about their plans to plant devices in Emery's office, with Lowe making sure she's safe. Cohen, another important figure, arrives and makes his brash presence known at dinner. Tension arises as the conversation shifts to alliances with humans and vampires. Later, when Lowe and Misery go to plant the devices, they nearly get caught by Emery's guards. To avoid being discovered, Misery decides to pretend to feed from Lowe, biting him to make it look convincing just as the guards enter. In Chapter 17, Lowe and Misery are in a tense and intimate moment after Misery feeds from Lowe. She discovers the intense connection between them as she drinks his blood, feeling overwhelming sensations. Despite the charged atmosphere, Lowe remains protective and cautious, ensuring her safety and monitoring the situation. As they prepare to leave, they are interrupted by Emery and Cohen with tension building over their actions. Misery feels a mix of guilt and desire as the moment of intimacy evolves. After their close encounter, Lowe and Misery are forced to face the looming threat of Emery's suspicion. Cohen shares urgent news about Anna, prompting Lowe to consider returning home earlier than planned, suggesting that something important is unfolding involving Anna. The chapter builds the complexity of Lowe and Misery's connection, while also revealing the underlying political and familial tensions they must navigate. In Chapter 18, Lowe and Misery return to find Anna sick with a fever and nausea, which Lowe is deeply concerned about. Despite Lowe's alpha demeanor, Misery steps in, offering her experience with humans and medical knowledge. After a tense discussion about what's best for Anna, Misery prepares medication she believes will help, as the group cannot risk exposing Anna to a human doctor. Later, while Anna rests, Misery and Alex work on a project for Lowe, with Misery's vampiric scent causing Alex to notice a shift in her. As Lowe worries about Anna's health, he acknowledges the weight of the situation and the potential consequences for his pack and Anna's safety. The chapter ends with Lowe emotionally vulnerable, seeking comfort in Misery's presence as they share a quiet, intimate moment, and she reassures him despite the uncertainty ahead. Their growing bond continues amid the looming crisis. In Chapter 19, Misery confronts her brother Owen about feeding from Lowe, and he warns her of the potential consequences, emphasizing that vampires feeding from wares is unnatural and frowned upon due to the complex emotional dynamics it creates. Despite Owen's harsh advice, Misery remains determined to explore her bond with Lowe. Later, Lowe and Misery have a charged interaction in the kitchen, where the tension between them escalates. Misery unintentionally crosses a line by licking peanut butter off Lowe's thumb, which deepens the growing attraction and confusion between them. Lowe is conflicted, knowing he has a mate, while Misery is overwhelmed by their intense connection. As they prepare to kiss, Misery feels an intense emotional and physical pull, but before they can proceed, she is suddenly struck by intense pain and collapses into darkness. The chapter ends on a cliffhanger, leaving their relationship unresolved. In Chapter 20, Misery wakes up in intense pain after being poisoned, but eventually falls into a healing trance. Dr. Averill, the Collateral's physician, reassures Lowe that Misery will survive, but she will need to feed heavily once she wakes up. Lowe is consumed with worry as he watches over her, while discussions about Anna's safety unfold, with Lowe deciding to move her to a secure location. Misery eventually regains consciousness, feeling disoriented but healed. She stumbles out of her room to find a large white wolf guarding her door, which turns out to be Lowe in wolf form. Misery, both surprised and amused, reluctantly follows the wolf back to her bed, where she's comforted by Lowe's presence. They share a playful moment, and Misery asks if he wants to stay the night. Lowe curls up beside her, and she falls asleep feeling safe and protected. In Chapter 21, Misery wakes up after enduring a near-death experience and finds herself healed but emotionally and physically drained. Lowe's worry for her is evident, and despite his initial tension, he reassures her that she's safe. They discuss the poisoning incident, Lowe's protective nature, and the uncertainty surrounding the culprit, with suspicion falling on Emery. Lowe suggests moving Misery to a safer location, but she refuses, wanting to stay and help find out who's behind the attack. Misery and Lowe share a tender moment, but are interrupted by a phone call from Owen. Owen informs Misery that Serena's apartment was broken into, and there's more to the story that requires an in-person meeting. Lowe agrees to arrange it. The chapter concludes with Misery and Lowe sharing a charged moment before he leaves for pack business, with the promise of returning soon. The emotional and physical tension between them grows. In Chapter 22, Misery struggles with her hunger after being without blood for a week, leading her to seek nourishment. She learns from Alex that Serena's connection to Thomas Gelakis, a former government official, could be pivotal in understanding her disappearance. Misery discovers that Gelakis, who was associated with the Human Were Bureau, died 2 weeks after Serena vanished, suggesting foul play. Lowe, concerned for her safety, suggests moving her to a safer location, but Misery refuses, wanting to help find Serena. Tension between Misery and Lowe deepens as they confront their growing feelings for each other. Lowe offers to let Misery feed from him, despite warnings about the consequences of their bond. Their intimacy escalates, and they share a vulnerable moment, discussing the complexity of their relationship. As emotions and desires intensify, they continue their search for answers, while navigating the intricate and dangerous world they are part of. In Chapter 23, Lowe and Misery have a tense but humorous shopping trip for a gift for Governor Davenport, ultimately buying an odd ashtray. On their way back, Misery feeds off Lowe, further complicating their growing connection. At dinner with Governor Davenport, tensions rise as they discuss past events, with Lowe subtly probing for information about Thomas Gelakis, who was involved with Serena. The governor reveals that Gelakis died in a car accident, but Lowe suspects foul play. After a confrontation with the governor, Lowe secures a lead and reveals that Gelakis had been involved in financial crimes. Misery and Lowe then drive to meet her brother Owen at the vampire-human border. To Misery's shock, Owen is accompanied by a woman whose blood smells like a Were's, Lowe's mate. This unexpected revelation deepens the intrigue surrounding Serena's disappearance. In Chapter 24, Misery, Lowe, Owen, and Gabby meet, and tensions rise as Owen reveals his plan to take over their father's council seat, despite the dangerous consequences. Owen's decision to challenge his father's power leads to a candid discussion about his ambitions and the risks involved. Misery grapples with her emotions, torn between supporting her brother and the perilous situation he's stepping into. Lowe, always attentive, tries to comfort Misery and helps navigate the conversation, but the presence of Gabby, Lowe's mate, adds complexity to their interactions. Owen's plan to usurp his father's position stirs unease, but Misery's focus shifts as she notices Lowe's subtle reactions toward Gabby, fueling her own confusion and jealousy. As Lowe drives them away, Misery reflects on her growing feelings for him, realizing that Lowe's connection to Gabby may not be as strong as she thought. In Chapter 25, Misery reflects on the confusion surrounding Lowe's relationship with Gabby, believing she might be his mate, but soon realizes that Gabby isn't the one. Lowe clarifies that Gabby offered herself as the Were collateral to maintain peace, and that Lowe's true mate is someone else. Despite this, Lowe seems distant and confused by Misery's assumptions, causing tension between them. As Misery processes the painful rejection, Lowe's cold and detached responses make her question their relationship. In a raw moment, Lowe dismisses the connection, suggesting they part ways. Misery, crushed by his words, tries to retreat emotionally, but Lowe insists on ensuring her safety, further complicating their already strained dynamic. After a tense exchange, Lowe leaves, and Misery is left alone, reeling from the dissonance between what she thought was true and the painful reality of Lowe's feelings. In Chapter 26, Misery is reeling from the heartbreak and rejection by Lowe. Struggling with the crushing weight of emotional pain, she reflects on her past loneliness and the loss of her best friend, Serena. Despite her efforts to shake off the hurt, Misery feels overwhelmed and disconnected, with no place to call home. When Mick arrives to take her somewhere, she's distant and detached, her thoughts clouded by the emotional turmoil. She asks Mick about Anna, but he avoids the topic, echoing Lowe's use of vague language. As Mick drives, Misery is caught off guard when he injects her with a syringe, leaving her confused and helpless. She falls into unconsciousness, unable to understand why this is happening or what Mick's intentions are. In Chapter 27, Misery wakes up in a strange, attic-like room, disoriented and drugged after being injected by Mick. She discovers she's been taken to Serena, who has been held captive for months, tallying the days on a bookshelf. Despite Serena's earlier disappearance, the two reconnect, exchanging frustrated yet humorous words. Serena reveals that she's been treated well but kept confined, and though she doesn't know where they are, she suspects they're in Were territory. Misery deduces that Mick and Serena's involvement with the Weres is more complicated than expected. The two come up with a plan to escape, but their progress is halted when they realize they're in the Nest, a familiar building Misery grew up in. As they descend the stairs, they are confronted by Vanya, who demands Misery's compliance, leaving their escape uncertain. In Chapter 28, Misery and Serena are held captive by Misery's father, who is preparing to use them as pawns in a political game to maintain vampire control. Father reveals that Serena is a hybrid, the child of a were and a human, and the reason behind her kidnapping. He manipulates and threatens both women, but Serena's surprising act of defiance, using their secret alphabet, reveals she has the ability to shift. This revelation shifts the balance, and Misery, now resigned to her fate, requests a final moment with Lowe. She shares a heartfelt message for Anna, Lowe's true mate, before Lowe and Serena, in a dramatic act of rebellion, transform into powerful wolves. Their transformation catches everyone off guard, leading to chaos and a fierce confrontation as the two wolves fight back with everything they've got, defying Father's control. In Chapter 29, Misery grapples with the emotional aftermath of recent events. As she recovers from the intense night, she and Serena share a quiet moment in Misery's childhood bedroom. Misery, still processing the chaos, confronts Serena about her secrets, particularly the revelation that Serena is a hybrid were. Serena admits she had struggled with the changes in her body and feared her transformation might harm their friendship. Despite this, Misery assures her that she will always support her regardless of her true nature. Their bond is reaffirmed in this heartfelt exchange, as Misery promises to remain Serena's friend no matter what. Meanwhile, Lowe and Owen reveal key developments: Mick's betrayal, Father's defeat, and the looming challenges. Misery reflects on her relationship with Lowe, her father's manipulative control, and her uncertain future. But ultimately, her friendship with Serena offers a sense of clarity and hope. In Chapter 30, Misery feels Lowe's absence as he fulfills alpha duties, and Serena begins exploring her were identity. Misery learns from Owen that she's no longer required as collateral and is free to live where she chooses. She visits Lowe's home and finds her belongings packed away, until Lowe returns and confirms she's still welcome. Misery confronts him about pushing her away, and Lowe confesses his fear of binding her through obligation rather than choice. Their emotional confrontation crescendos into a passionate, deeply intimate night, culminating in Lowe fully accepting Misery as his mate. They discuss the challenges of being different species, and Lowe's intent to officially mark her with a mate bite during a proper were ceremony. Their connection solidifies through mutual vulnerability, physical intimacy, and the choice to be together, despite tradition, expectation, or species. Misery and Lowe finally commit to a shared future, driven by love, not duty. Epilogue. Lowe and Misery are adjusting to their life together, with Lowe savoring the unexpected joy of having Misery by his side. They share a light moment hanging a picture for Anna's room, a fun and spontaneous creation from Lowe. Lowe is still grappling with the enormity of his feelings for Misery, often overwhelmed by the preciousness of their bond. While Misery playfully teases him, they share intimate, grounding moments together. The arrival of Anna and Cohen shifts their dynamic when Cohen's reaction to Serena sparks a realization in Lowe. Cohen is drawn to Serena, and the tension is palpable. Lowe understands the complication this new attraction will cause, hinting that things are far from simple in their intertwined lives. The chapter closes with a sense of foreboding, as Lowe braces for the potential challenges ahead.